Released on the 3rd of August 2019, and to pretty positive reviews, JOLLIBEE'S, aka JOLLIBEE'S Phase 1, is probably one of the most interesting FNaF fan games I've seen in recent times, with it not only having very good art direction and atmosphere, but also very engaging night gameplay and anxiety-inducing post-night minigames. But sadly, both games were removed off GameJolt after the lawyer of JOLLIBEE'S asked IvanG, the dev behind the Jolly series, to take down the games. The reason being that the games affected the JOLLIBEE'S company in a negative way. Hello everybody, it's me, your host, Something Strange YT, and today, me and my good friend ZiggyAG are going to be diving into the terrifying world of JOLLIBEE'S, and its sequel, JOLLIBEE'S Phase 2. So without further ado, let's dive right in.
Our children have been victims of food poisoning earlier this morning while at a party in a local fast food restaurant. Surveillance footage shows that an unknown man wearing blue broke into the kitchen and added what seemed to be chemicals, which was later given to the children.
20 years after the incident that closed down Jolly's fantasy world, we, Justin Smith, take the night shift position at JOLLIBEE'S. Fun fact, this game chronologically, before the takedown, takes place right after Jolly 1. After the loading screen, we are greeted with the reception area of the building. The task at the top of the screen tells us to head to the office, so we do. After locating the office, we begin our first shift. Night 1 is pretty simple gameplay wise. We have a door in front of us where we can turn the power off if we see any animatronics, a vent to our left where we can shine any animatronics trying to get in, and a window to our right where we can keep track of one animatronic. Each night, the manager / phone guy will give us a task to do after our shift. Tonight's task is to fix the broken fuses in Yum's party room. The characters that we're up against tonight are Yum, Twirly, and Hetty. Yum will come from Yum's party room, into the party hallway, and then into the supply closet, and then into the vents. You have an option to close the vent in front of him, or you can let him pass through. If you do let him through, he'll come to the vent on your left. If you hear him banging on the vents, look into the vent and shine your light to make him go away. Twirly will come from Twirly's show stage, and she can take two possible routes to get to you. She can go through the lobby, into kitchen B, then into kitchen A, and finally to the front hall. Or she can go through kitchen A and then to the front hall. After taking either of those routes, she will then appear in the window on the door in front of you. If you see her, shut off the lights in your office. She'll think the room is empty and leave. Hetty starts off in the window to your right. She'll start from the left of the window and try to move to the right of the window to get into the vents. To stop her, continuously flash your flashlight to make her go back to her previous position. But if you ignore her and the window is empty, your last line of defense is to shut the vent that she is on. But beware, shutting 2 or more vents will drain your breath meter quickly, making it tedious to seal her from night 2 onwards. Overall, night 1 is obviously the easiest of the 5. The animatronics mechanics are very engaging, and I like how creepy they look in some shots. They are very uncanny. After fending off the animatronics, the clock strikes 6 AM. Our shift ends. After leaving the office each night, we have a choice. We can either do our post-shift task that the manager / phone guy gives us, or make our way back to the entrance and go home. Skipping all of the assigned tasks gives us the slacker ending, in which we receive our paycheck and a pink slip for not completing the tasks the manager asked us to do. We head into Yum's party room and begin the minigame. To change a fuse, take out the black one and swap them out for a red fuse. Yum will try to get to us from the 3 points behind us, in front of us, to our left, or to our right. Shine the flashlight at him to get him to go away. Something I find really odd is the fact that throughout the entirety of the whole game, this one minigame was the only thing out of the entire game that lagged. And by lag, I mean this part of the game was a slog to get through. After getting through the minigame, our shift officially ends and we move on to Night 2. Night 2 introduces Jollibee himself as an enemy. His mechanics are almost identical to Twirly's, but he uses a different route, going from Jollibee's show stage to the party hallway, and finally to the front hall, where you'll have to turn off the lights when he appears to make him leave. Night 2 is almost identical to Night 1, aside from Jollibee and the slight increase in difficulty. Our post-shift task for tonight is to tighten the valves on the ceiling in Twirly's show stage, so we head over there and begin the task. There are 10 valves to tighten. Twirly will move closer with an audio cue. If she is close to us, we need to hide under the table behind the chairs, where we'll have to avoid making eye contact with her by moving behind the chairs, breaking her line of sight. And thank God, the rest of the game did not lag as much as that first post-shift minigame did. Oh, it was horrible. Anyway, after completing the task, our shift ends and we move on to Night 3. Night 3 is quite the difficulty spike, with it introducing 3 new things we have to keep track of. A new enemy from this point onward is Popo, who has pretty much identical mechanics to Yum, but instead of flashing the light at him, you have to ignore him to make him go away. Night 3 also introduces ads in the cameras, which we have to click on the X to get rid of them, and a fucking computer virus. The virus, if not dealt with in time, will shut down the ventilation system, which will cause us to suffocate. Overall, Night 3 is a very interesting, albeit difficult, night, with honestly the only really annoying thing being the fact that Popo and Yum have the exact same knocking sound, which if you're not paying attention, or if you're preoccupied with other things, will cause you to die. Other than that, Night 3 is great. Our post-shift task is to tighten the loose screws on the monkey bars in Popo's playroom. So after our shift, we head into the room and begin the minigame. In this task, we have 9 screws to be tightened. Popo, my arch nemesis, will attempt to move towards us while we try to complete the task. To stop him, we have to move the cleaning supplies in front of him. Editing me here, I have one question. How the hell do cleaning supplies stop a 7-foot tall animatronic? How the hell does that work? Our shift ends and we move on to Night 4. Night 4 is effectively just Night 3 but harder. Nothing really interesting happens, so we'll move on to the post-shift task. Our post-shift task is to mop the floor in Jollibee's show stage, so we head over and begin our task. As we mop the floor, Jollibee will move to either our left or right, where we'll have to shine the light at him to make him go away. Honestly, all the post-shift minigames are pretty similar to each other, but they're all just different enough that they're able to stand out. After mopping the last bit of the floor, our shift ends and we move on to the game's finale. Night 5 is of course the most difficult night in the game, aside from Night 6. All the animatronics are cranked up to the hardest difficulty, and this night, for me at least, took me 4 tries on 4 different occasions. I died to Popo every single time. Fuck you, Popo. Overall, this night is very climactic, and it really gives you the feel of, this is the end. It's perfect. Our final post-shift task is to fix the Hetty animatronic. We find out Hetty is a Springlock suit, and with Kevin Johnson, the CEO of JOLLIBEE'S, on the other end of the recording telling us to hop in, we oblige. After hopping in, the animatronic malfunctions and snaps shut, with Hetty saying, "You don't," before activating the Springlocks, killing Justin Smith. As we pan to see Jollibee in the dark, we hear the following conversation.
"It's over. We got him."
"Very well. Now on to phase 2.
With Jollibee's eyes lighting up, and the game cuts to credits. The end credits theme is titled Even Honeybee's Sting, and I have to say, it is a fucking banger. After the credits, we return to the menu and are able to do Night 6. I didn't do that. And the extras menu, where we can replay the post-shift minigames and look at the animatronics and their jump scares. I also have a theory that the kids who died from food poisoning in the opening cutscene of the game also possess the animatronics. But hey, that's just a... Wait, that's copyrighted? Well, fuck.
JOLLIBEE'S Phase 2 released on April 7th, 2020 and was a sequel to the first JOLLIBEE'S, but unfortunately it only lasted a day until JOLLIBEE'S actually came knocking on IvanG's door and practically tortured him into taking the game down. Okay, you know what really happened. Lex has already explained it. They were actually quite reasonable with it. So I can't really find too much reception of this game, so I can only really say what I think of it. Let's just take a look at the game on its own and go through each night in terms of gameplay and story. The game takes place in a massive storage shipment warehouse across the street from JOLLIBEE'S. I just find that plotline extremely funny for some reason. Hey Phil, don't forget to look both ways when you take these animatronics across the road. Hey, don't worry Steve, I got it. After the restaurant closed, the animatronics have been shipped here for further investigation. So now you play as an employee of LTM Shipments Inc. And of course, the animatronics are now on the hunt for you, and you have to survive whilst carrying out your nightly duties. So let me go through the gameplay, or at least try to, because holy hell, there is a fuck ton of it. So this game is kind of like a mix between FNaF 3 and Pizzeria Simulator, as I would describe it. You're more of a night worker rather than a security guard. So your task for the night is conveyor belt operation. Through the night, you need to activate this conveyor belt system and connect up each package that comes through to their corresponding letter on this screen here. If you get 50 packages through, then the night is over, and you earn a certain amount of revenue for each night. I mean, come on, that's the best gameplay you can have for, you know, something that takes place in a storage warehouse. But it's actually really well done, because the system resembles something you would actually find in a working environment like this. And it actually makes the game a lot more intense, rather than just clicking on tasks and waiting for them to finish. But not only that, for security purposes, the warehouse is equipped with a motion detection system and a terrible camera system. Like, seriously, Ivan? This is 2037? But during the night, you get a second phone call from JOLLIBEE'S themselves. They explain that they have installed 2 other systems, such as an audio lure and a hacking system. They actually went through the effort of installing these systems in this warehouse just to keep their terribly unstable animatronics at bay. Like in Pizzeria Sim, you can use the motion detect to pick up anyone near you and use the audio lure to keep them away. These are the only 2 systems you're mainly going to end up using, because the cameras are absolutely useless. But the hacking system you can use to control the animatronics and stop them from coming near you, which is pretty great, but be careful, because the more you use the hacking system, the more damage you cause to the animatronics, which is then taken out of your payment at the end of the night. And not only that, use any of these 4 systems too much, they will begin to break down. But just like in FNaF 3, there is a maintenance panel where you can reboot any of these systems that go offline. However, not only that, if you activate the conveyor belt system to finish the night, the animatronics could potentially use it to get to you faster, and that's obviously bad news. Speaking of which, let's talk about who's after you on this first night. So night 1, the only character that's really chasing you is Popo. And my god, he looks terrifying. Let's just talk about the character design real quick. In the first game, the characters have a much more cutesy look, with big heads, small bodies, and other features that make them look charming. In this game, they look more like how they do in real life, and jeez, it really works to the game's advantage. The dirty textures also make them feel more run down and disturbing. They also feel way more dangerous with how much bigger they are, and they're more FNaF-like limbs that can rip you to shreds. It works amazingly. It fits the tone of the game, the setting, the atmosphere. A more realistic look makes perfect sense when we're working in this dark aesthetic warehouse. Anyway, you can lure Popo away with the audio, but if he gets to your office, then you can shine your light in his face, and that will cause a system restart, and he will leave. FNaF 101. Kind of funny how Popo in the first game didn't like that flashlight and attacked you for doing that, but whatever. Once you've completed the night, you can put your revenue towards upgrading any of your systems and buying items from the shop. There are also mini games you can play for a little bit of extra revenue, or jobs as they're officially called. But these are long, hard, and stressful. The first one is box transportation, where you have to move packages using a forklift whilst Popo tries sneaking up behind you. You need to constantly turn around and check if he's there. If he's standing further away from you, you just once again shine him with your flashlight. But if you hear breathing, then it's time to hold your own breath until he goes away. Move all the boxes from the lower shelf to the top alongside their corresponding numbers, and the game is complete. You have to move 30 of these boxes, and you basically get paid for doing it. So I'm not really sure if it's worth it, but I'll tell you later on why you need revenue and why it's important for this game. On night 2, this time you have Popo and Yum coming after you. They both pretty much work the same, but now you've got to ship 75 packages rather than 50. So the night is longer and more risky and is overall just a more difficult night 1. But let's discuss the next minigame. That is box checking. This time you're surviving Yum, and you do so the same way as before with Popo. But the task this time is you need to make sure that the labeling on the box matches with what shows on the screen. You reject if it doesn't and accept if it does. But the hard part about this is that there is a lot of text to read on here, and you need to make sure that it all matches, or else yeah, that can be a pain. Get 30 of these boxes through the conveyor and you win. So now we move on to night 3, and this time Twirly is on the loose. Again, she works the same as Yum and Popo, but if she shows up at your office, don't shine the light at her. You need to hide under the desk. She'll try searching for you under the desk, but you just need to make sure that you point your face in the opposite direction that she's facing, because I guess if you can't see them, they can't see you. This is a little bit of a callback to the first game when you did the exact same thing to avoid her in a mini game where you had to hide under a table and hide behind these chairs, which made a lot more sense, but whatever. But not only that, Hetty is active too. You also hide under the desk and pretty much do the same thing, but this time you need to avoid her arm from touching you. And tonight, we are introduced to the star of the show, Jollibee. If he also makes it to your office, then once again, hide under the desk and avoid his ugly ass face. In the printing job, you've just got to once again shine your light and listen for breathing. And this is against Twirly this time. And match the number on the screen with the number of the package. That's pretty much it, really. Night 5 is much of the same, but of course, much harder. Yeah, that's all there is to say, really, too. The final mini game is driving. You've got to move these crates to their respective shelves whilst defending yourself from Jollibee and Hetty. Now, something I've noticed about these mini games and the overall gameplay in general is that it's a bit repetitive. You're defending yourself from the animatronics the same way every single time, and the tasks themselves are also very, very similar. In the first game, there was a plethora of chores because taking care of a food establishment takes a lot of work, I should know. But to be honest, it's quite hard to make a ton of variety in these mini games when the setting is a bit more dull. I mean, what much is there to do in a storage warehouse besides from sorting packages 24/7? But saying that, I like the way you defend yourself from Hetty in this game. It's similar to how you fend her off in the regular nights of the first game. That's a nice little callback, but that's really it. Anyway, let's move on to the ending, as I think it is the best part of the game. If you get through the night regularly without buying everything in the shop and without upgrading all of your equipment, you'll get the incompletion ending, which is a bit dumb. Why do they expect me to buy crappy gift shop gifts to get a bloody certificate of completion? So yeah, I mean, getting the ending, the way you get the ending is a little bit meh, a bit weird. But if you do end up buying all the items and upgrading all your equipment, you get the completion ending.
Hey there, Kevin Johnson here.
project, and it turned out great. I'm now initiating a phase 2 of that project, which is the test of reliability of using an animatronic robot to preserve human life. If this project works, you'll see my brain embedded to an endoskeleton skull. That is all. End of memo.
Don't worry, everything is all in place now.
Phase 2 will begin in 3, 2, 1.
That's right. The big twist at the end of this game is that Kevin Johnson is Jolly from Jolly 3. To be honest, that's really not a bad twist. Overall, this game is definitely flawed. The jobs are a bit repetitive, the way you achieve the completion ending is quite random, and like with the first game, the voice acting is very, very corny. The jump scares I also think are a lot worse from the first game. It's just a head kind of bobbling in your face, whereas in the first game the jump scares were like really properly animated and it looked way better. But I can overlook those flaws when the gameplay is intense, the atmosphere is great, like seriously, these games have some fantastic OST tracks, and the designs of the animatronics work really well. I also really like the story of these games, and the fact they tie into the Jolly universe is quite novel. But I think the time period is a little bit off. Like, there's no way this game would take place in 2037. I don't know. But it's whatever. You don't need to take these games seriously, because they're just corny, over-the-top FNaF fan games that were first developed by a 13-year-old kid. I like these games, and if you take out the very clearly copyrighted characters, I think these could have been some of the best FNaF fan games ever to be made.
So that, everybody, was JOLLIBEE'S Phase 1 and 2. Anyway, if you guys enjoyed today's video, please hit that like, the subscribe button, and the notification bell to never miss a new upload. Also, I want to give a big thank you to ZickyAG for joining me on today's video. Originally, I was just going to do it by myself, but then I thought, hey, why don't I bring someone else onto the project? Anyway, I'll see you all in the next video. Peace.